A court in Bangladesh is delivering a verdict in the trial of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. She's facing charges of crimes against humanity.
A former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, has been sentenced to death for crimes against humanity.
We have decided to inflict her with only one sentence, that is sentence of death.
মুক্তিযোদ্ধাদের নাতিপুতিরাও পাবে না, তাহলে কি রাজাকারের নাতিপুতিরা পাবে?
Bangladesh stands at a critical moment in its history. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, one of the longest-serving and most powerful political leaders in the country, now faces a legal battle that could have profound political and legal ramifications. At the heart of the controversy is her involvement in the country's 1971 Liberation War and allegations that have surfaced regarding her actions, which some argue may have contributed to international crimes. This legal case, being heard by the International Crimes Tribunal, ICT, has captured global attention. Today, we will explore the potential implications of this legal case, what a possible conviction could mean for Sheikh Hasina, and whether the political and legal systems of Bangladesh could withstand the consequences of such a monumental event. The International Crimes Tribunal. Its legitimacy and role. The International Crimes Tribunal was established to investigate war crimes and crimes against humanity committed during the 1971 war, which ultimately led to Bangladesh's independence from Pakistan. Since its inception, the tribunal has convicted several individuals involved in the violence of the war. However, the legitimacy of the ICT has been a subject of significant controversy. Critics argue that the tribunal is politically motivated, targeting opposition figures and those critical of the current government. Its critics point to the fact that most of the high-profile cases involve members of the political opposition, while the ruling Awami League has largely remained unscathed. Sheikh Hasina, who is the current leader of the Awami League, has vehemently defended the tribunal, calling it a crucial mechanism for seeking justice for the atrocities of 1971. But the question remains, can such a tribunal, operating in a highly charged political atmosphere, fairly and impartially convict a sitting Prime Minister? The case against Sheikh Hasina raises several questions about the limits of national jurisdiction and the legitimacy of international legal bodies when applied to high-ranking political figures. Although the ICT has convicted and sentenced individuals for war crimes, no sitting head of government has ever been tried for such offences. If Sheikh Hasina were to be charged, it could set an unprecedented legal and political precedent, shaking the core of Bangladesh's judicial system. The death sentence controversy. One of the most dramatic aspects of the ongoing trial is the possibility that Sheikh Hasina could be sentenced to death. The death penalty, though rarely used, is still part of Bangladesh's legal system. And for crimes related to war crimes, the possibility of a death sentence is more than theoretical. The question here is not just about the legal process, but about the political implications of such a sentence. The execution of a sitting Prime Minister, especially one who has been in power for so long and commands significant political loyalty, would be a historic and unprecedented move. While no woman has ever been executed in Bangladesh, international law and human rights groups would likely condemn any such move. The repercussions would be felt not only in Bangladesh, but across the international community, where executions of political leaders are viewed with great concern. The global trend has been towards the abolition of the death penalty, especially for women. In fact, executions of women for political reasons have become exceedingly rare worldwide. If Sheikh Hasina were sentenced to death, the international community would likely pressure the Bangladeshi government to reverse the decision. Given the political situation, it is hard to imagine how the government could proceed with such a drastic measure without facing massive international sanctions and a loss of foreign support. Furthermore, within Bangladesh, the death sentence could provoke widespread protests, especially from her loyalists. They might see the sentence as politically motivated, fueling further tensions within the country. The execution of such a prominent leader would make headlines worldwide, with human rights organisations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, issuing strong condemnations. The global reaction could significantly impact Bangladesh's diplomatic relations, especially with Western nations and human rights organisations, international politics and global reaction. The global political landscape would also play a significant role in this case. Sheikh Hasina, though facing domestic political challenges, maintains strong international ties. Her leadership has been crucial in securing foreign investment, especially from China and India, both of whom have economic and strategic interests in Bangladesh. If the government were to move forward with a death sentence, both countries would likely take a firm stance on the matter. In the European Union, where human rights and democracy are central issues, there would likely be strong opposition to any execution. This could lead to diplomatic isolation for Bangladesh, with the EU imposing sanctions on the country. The international community, including major powers like the United States, would undoubtedly scrutinise the case with great attention. Given Bangladesh's strategic importance in the region, especially in the context of trade and geopolitics, the global response could determine the course of the country's future relations with its neighbours and other key global players. China, with its growing influence in South Asia, might provide diplomatic cover for Bangladesh, possibly resisting international pressure. But the weight of global human rights norms would challenge Bangladesh's political calculations. Even India, despite its long-standing ties to Sheikh Hasina, might find it difficult to support such a decision if it was perceived as a violation of democratic principles or international law political fallout. What happens to Bangladesh's governance? Should Sheikh Hasina be convicted and sentenced to death, the political landscape of Bangladesh would undoubtedly undergo a seismic shift. Her supporters, who have rallied around her for decades, might see this as a politically motivated attack and could mobilise in protest. The ruling Awami League, which has maintained control over much of the country's governance, would likely attempt to preserve its hold on power by any means necessary. But there are also significant risks. Her political rivals, primarily from the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP, and other opposition factions, would seize this moment as an opportunity to demand not only her resignation, but also a full overhaul of the country's political system. This could lead to widespread political unrest. In the worst-case scenario, a conviction could ignite civil unrest, leading to protests and violence. While Sheikh Hasina's government has shown resilience in suppressing opposition movements, a conviction for international crimes could erode her support among the masses and could weaken her grip on power. The opposition, emboldened by the trial's outcome, might attempt to seize control, potentially leading to instability and a power vacuum. This could further strain the country's fragile democratic institutions, leading to calls for a return to military rule, as seen in Bangladesh's past. Sheikh Hasina's political legacy. A dynasty in jeopardy. For all her power, Sheikh Hasina's political legacy could be on the line. As the daughter of the country's founding father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, she has enjoyed a special place in the hearts of many Bangladeshis. However, the current trial threatens to undermine not only her political career, but also her family's grip on power. In Bangladesh, political dynasties are common. The Awami League, under Sheikh Hasina's leadership, has become synonymous with the country's government. If Hasina were removed from the political equation, her family could seek to continue her legacy through her son or other relatives. However, this might not be enough to maintain the political order she has built over the past 2 decades. Should Hasina be convicted and imprisoned, it could open the door for a new political player to take control of the Awami League. The vacuum left behind could give rise to new leaders, either from within her own party or from the opposition. The political future of the country is thus highly unpredictable. It's possible that even if Hasina were jailed or executed, the Awami League could continue its dominance, but this would depend heavily on public opinion and the actions of the military and other power brokers within the country. Ultimately, her family's political dynasty may be tested in ways it has never faced before. The possibility of Sheikh Hasina's return to power. Even if Hasina were convicted and imprisoned, many analysts argue that she could still return to power in Bangladesh. In fact, her conviction could turn her into a martyr for her supporters, which might rally the Awami League and others who see her as a symbol of resistance against what they perceive as a corrupt or unfair judicial system. In such a scenario, Hasina could emerge as a political prisoner, perhaps even from behind bars, continuing to influence the political process. Moreover, Bangladesh's political history is rife with examples of leaders coming back to power after being exiled or imprisoned. Given Hasina's deep-rooted political network and widespread support base, it is entirely possible that she could return to politics after a period of imprisonment. Her charisma, combined with the martyrdom narrative, could lead to her reinstatement as the leader of the country. This scenario would not only have domestic consequences, but could also alter the international balance. Countries and organisations that currently have ties to Bangladesh might reconsider their positions depending on the political fallout.